Hello everyone, I'm the Enforcer, and welcome to the breaking news. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and support us on Patreon, link in the description below. Today's breaking news is that within the area of the Voronezh Oblast, a Ukrainian drone has struck a Russian ammunition depot, resulting in one of the largest explosions seen so far during the war, and causing major damage to the Russian logistical structures which keep the Russian army fighting inside of Ukraine. Based off of the information that we got today, we were able to see that after the drone hit the ammunition depot, the explosion was extremely violent and incredibly large. This is actually a video taken from a nearby region showing the massive white plume of smoke that is coming off of this ammunition depot as the fire begins to consume more and more ammunition, creating more and more secondary explosions. Some of these actually flinging ammunition and artillery shells upwards into the sky, where it'll be raining back down on surrounding countryside areas. But here's the clip. Even from this considerable distance, you can hear all the explosions of the artillery.
Его сбило нахуй, это у него шокна поубивало в доме. Жопа, короче. Твою ж мать. В селе никого. Вообще.
We see our camera people are joking around and laughing as they start driving towards the giant pillar of smoke, which is now enveloping a large part of the oblast. The sounds of explosions still heard in the distance as the artillery is actively being eaten by the fire. We also got additional video and picture evidence showing the fire and explosion a little bit more up close and giving us a little bit of a better idea of the absolute raw sound of the secondary explosions that were going on inside the ammunition depot. Here is that clip right here.
Така хуйня, кот. Може там щось і літає.
Right there, we can see a small little piece of artillery flying off from the explosion.
Короче, їбанешся. А отут у мене кавуни. Ну, чув? Пізда, блядь.
And with that, that's the end of that clip, but still giving us another view of that explosion. Meanwhile, we also got to see one final bit of news showing the explosion from a Russian military unit that appears to have been operating in the area and was taken by surprise by the explosion, giving us one final third angle of this massive ammunition explosion that happened in Voronezh. We can actually see the explosion still occurring right there, at least the beginning of the explosion. And we can actually see in this clip, this is probably the most earliest and most recent clip we could get of the actual explosion rather than the fire that resulted from the drone hitting the ammunition depot. But notice that here, when we look at the top of this cloud, that is the very top of a mushroom cloud, and this is actually the base, well, not really the base, but more so the plume of the mushroom cloud from the explosion. And this is showing us that this ammunition explosion had just happened by the time this was being filmed. This is a very important thing to work off of, as it is showing that Ukrainian drone attacks are now no longer being conducted during nighttime hours. They're now being conducted in the middle of broad daylight, showing that they have such a confidence against Russian air defense. Even small arms fire seems to be so ineffective to Ukrainian drones that they can allow these drones to attack during the broad daylight, in the middle of the day in the Russian Federation. Another important thing to get out of this is that we are starting to see that the Ukrainian armed forces are beginning to attack ammunition depots at a much higher frequency inside of the Russian Federation. Back a long time ago, way back at the beginning of the war, the Ukrainians used to attack ammunition depots at an incredibly high frequency, but a lot of these ammunition depots were usually found within 10 to 20 miles of the front lines, making it a lot easier to strike and attack them than they ever were after that point in the early part of 2022. Since then, major Russian ammunition depots have been moved way far behind the lines, most of them actually being inside the Russian Federation itself than inside of occupied Ukraine. But now that Ukraine has been able to harness the power of the long-range drone, and it's shown that it is wildly effective and incredibly devastating, it now seems as though they are going once again after major Russian ammunition depots and attacking them and destroying them, a lot like we just saw in that clip right there. This explosion is extremely large, and we are assuming that hundreds, if not maybe over 1,000 or several thousand tons of ammunition may have gone up in that single explosion right there. This is incredibly good news for Ukraine, as that means that a large amount of Russian military units that were being supplied from that supply yard are now going to have to be supplied from other ones, meaning that they'll most likely be drawing on supplies meant for other units in different areas of the front, or it may completely deplete the supplies in a single area for some time, meaning that within a northern area, the northeastern area of the front line near to the area of Kupiansk-Włosławia, the Russians may be running into ammunition shortages for a sustained period of time. We will be waiting to see what kind of frontline information we can get that may suggest that the Russians are going to start running into ammunition shortages due to this explosion, but nevertheless, this will have a very large effect on Russian logistical efforts, even if they aren't visibly noticeable on the front lines, and will probably put the Russian supply lines under extremely great strain, maybe even to a breaking point within that local area. Moving on from that news and down into the area of Donetsk, we also got to hear that Ukraine has claimed that they have shot down an SU-25 close air support aircraft today. This was according to the 110th Separate Mechanized Brigade, which has been active around the area of Avdiivka for quite some while, and according to information that we got, it seems as though that they have claimed that they've been able to shoot down another SU-25. The 110th Mechanized Brigade has been doing incredibly well in shooting down Su-25 aircraft, and it seems as though that they're really starting to improve their anti-air defenses, at least within that particular brigade. The reason for which that is happening is unknown, but nevertheless, it is a very positive result. Meanwhile, in the direction of Melitopol, we also got to see that the local airfield near to the area of Melitopol, which we have heard is being used by the Russian Federation's forces, is on fire in massive form. We do not know what the fire has been caused from. It appears that the smoke is somewhere in between a grayish black, maybe suggesting that it's ammunition and fuel based at the exact same time, but we don't really know the exact details for certain at the moment about the Melitopol airfield fire, rather than it is ongoing, and that we understand that a Russian heliborne wing was based here. I can actually show you all this airfield right here. This is the one that supposedly was on fire, and we can see right here that it appears that several MiG-29s were stationed at the airfield when this satellite picture was taken, but most importantly, the Russian Federation was apparently operating helicopters out of this airfield. These aircraft all actually appear to be Ukrainian when the satellite picture was taken, or may have been left behind in the rapid Russian advance way back in early 2022, but we do understand that a group of Ka-52s, Mi-28s, and Mi-17s of the Russian Air Force, or the Russian Army, has been operating out of this airfield, in that the fire may have ended up striking some of those equipment systems and destroying them. Aircraft would not be operating that close to the front line. Got to put that out there really quickly. Usually the Russian aircraft that are operating in Ukraine are operating from airfields as far back as Yesk, or even farther back than that, in the area around Rostov-on-Don or Taganrog. Also within the area of Crimea as well, although we're seeing that that's a lot less frequent nowadays than it was in the past. Airfields that are this close to the front line are usually used for rotary aircraft or rotary wing aircraft, such as helicopters, and that means that anything that would have been stricken or destroyed at this airfield has a very, very high chance of being a rotary wing aircraft like a helicopter, instead of a fixed wing aircraft like an Su-34 fighter bomber or anything along those lines. So we can iron that detail out, but we really can't iron out much more than that at the moment, beyond the pictures proving the damage. Meanwhile, we also got to see that within the Netherlands, it appears that they are going to be giving up one of their Patriot systems to Ukraine, according to the information that we got from Bisavka today. The Netherlands has announced an additional Patriot for Ukraine, according to Radio Svoboda. The Netherlands is also providing an additional 2 million euros to investigate crimes committed by the Russian military. Incredibly good to hear that they're going to be doing both of those things, and great to know that the Netherlands will be helping to continue to make sure that the mission of protecting Ukraine's skies will continue on well on into the future. Meanwhile, outside of Ukraine and all the way down inside of the Islamic Republic of Iran, which has made headlines on this channel several times over recent history, we have been able to hear that within the major port of Bandar Abbas, a major port on the Iranian coastline, one of the few actually within the southern area, that houses a whole bunch of different naval equipment. big news came out today, and I'm trying to make sure that I could show y'all the actual port. This is a part of the port of Bandar Abbas, and you can see that there's a large amount of commercial vessels here. But one thing that I really want to draw attention to are these Iranian naval frigates that we can see right here, particularly this one. Now, I wasn't in the specific area of the port where this frigate had its incident, but somehow today, out of the blue, and here's a couple of other of these frigates, by the way, and also a few of them in dry dock as well. It seems as though a large part of the Iranian service fleet is within the port of Bandar Abbas, just right here. But nevertheless, today we got the breaking news, the insane news, that one of these frigates just completely capsized with nothing happening inside the port. There was no report of an explosion. The ship literally just rolled over onto its side and sank at its mooring. We have no idea why this happened, but we did get to see that the frigate has completely capsized. This is the pictures that we are getting currently from Bandar Abbas. We can actually see that the frigate was actually tied alongside some sort of a commercial vessel, but we can clearly see that in this picture, the frigate, specifically from what we know, it's something close to a R6 from Israel, but not really that close. Nevertheless, this is something very interesting, because the next picture shows us that this thing completely capsized. It is completely rolled over. It did not sink on an even keel. And we can also see that it is rolled over so far. We can actually see the sonar bulb, that I guess you could call it, that was on the bottom of the hull of the vessel. It is clearly visible because the frigate has rolled over that far and that badly. According to Intel Schizo, which is incredibly good with maritime information, this is the third Mouj-class frigate to capsize. In short, the ships are top-heavy from the original Alvin-class frigate parent design. And it appears that the Iranians are certainly starting to show this as these vessels are endlessly capsizing, at least according to Intel Schizo. And we were able to see a picture of this frigate before it sank right here. This is an actual picture of the warship, the Sahand, which was the one that capsized today. This is what it looked like before the sinking. This is what it looked like after the capsizing, right there. It is incredibly bizarre to see Iranian naval vessels just capsize like this in port, but once again reminding us of the military ineptitude of the Islamic Republic of Iran as they continue to conduct refit after refit to these vessels without consulting any kind of competent engineers and asking whether this would start to compromise the integrity of the vessel's seaworthiness, and whether it would just start to capsize in port in calm waters just because it was simply far too heavy on the top of the vessel, instead of making sure that the center of mass was more so inside the hull instead of above the hull, where the ship could tip over quite easy. This also starts to throw in major questions about the seaworthiness of the entire Iranian Navy, like we're seeing right here in this satellite picture. There are many vessels of a similar class that are here inside of this port. And the fact that one of these capsized in calm waters, literally at its mooring, shows that any of them could capsize at this point that are of the same class. And it is showing that the Iranian Navy is not as competent or dangerous as many people have been trying to make them out to be, as far as the Israel-Iranian tensions have continued to rise. It is also once again showing that the Iranian Navy and the Iranian armed forces largely as a whole are all hanging on by a tether, and it doesn't really appear that any of them are doing all that well in the long scheme of things, or really more so in the big picture. But nevertheless, that is all of the major breaking news that we have today. I have to thank every single one of y'all once again for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure to get to cover this news with all of y'all. If y'all have enjoyed, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you would really like to help support this channel on Patreon, the link is in the description below. I have to give a massive shout out to all of our current patrons on Patreon, because y'all help to make these video projects possible. If it wasn't for those folks' support, we wouldn't be able to get onto this YouTube channel every single day and put out these kinds of short war summaries whenever there's enough news. We owe them a massive bit of gratitude for that, and if you want to end up being one of those people, we are more than happy to have y'all. If not, I thank you so much for enjoying the video nevertheless, because y'all are the folks we make the videos for, and we are always so happy to know that so many people get to watch these videos and hear the major news of what's been going on around the world each and every day. And so with that, I thank you all so much once again for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.